Hi everyone, Day here, and as a result of audio issues, we are doing this episode again. So yes, this will be an episode I've already recorded before previously, which means that the whole entire episode that you see before you is most likely, unless I get to the point that I ended at before a little faster this time since I know how to answer the questions easier, but outside of that, it's going to be pretty much a one-on-one parody of what I've already done before. So I kind of know where I left off, like to stop it, so that way I'm not like progressing past that point, and just call this a re-record episode, essentially speaking. And I want to say we're here, so we're going to just hop back into it. Yeah, I recorded 2 episodes that day, and then when I was rewatching it, I normally don't listen on like full blast, so I didn't catch it at first. But then when I was in the process of uploading it, that was when I was able to hear that, yeah, the episode had the game's audio was acting funky, which I'm sure you already know because of the last episode that I did upload to YouTube. So this is the article in question, is it? A small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilded 2 months ago. And on the night of Mr. Wendybank's murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke into the shop.
Quick! Let's open it and see what's inside.
I really hate that I know this stuff already. Good gracious! This is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow! Although in truth, I had an inkling that might be the case. Yes. I don't think I did at that point. I'm trying to remember exactly what I said at this point, but I don't remember. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Then, is it too much to expect? I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. That part was obvious, and I do remember mentioning that. I was like, oh, since it's a music box, it's guaranteed the music box that plays the disc. So here we have the means to play back Mr. McGilded's disc, deposited at Wendybank's at much the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGilded's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus. But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand that the brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mr. McGilded? I believe the answer will become clear if you listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last. Wait, my lord. Good grief! What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The music box and the disc are, well, they're unrelated to the case. No need to spoil the somber atmosphere in the courtroom with some silly bit of music. Objection. This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that is fundamentally important to understanding what happened. The prosecution has no objection. But no, that piece of evidence is police. Clearly, Scotland Yard has some vested interest here, but it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored, and you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. No further delays, please! Play the disc! No dilly-dallying. And we get this creepy, chimey music. What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music. Now that's what I would call music. But that's not what I call music. This one. No. It's just the same note, playing over and over again in an irregular sequence. Graydon! This really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? At this point, I'm fairly certain that I said that it's just not music. Like, jolly good dancer over there is just swaying like a ballerina. Like, no. You can't fool me, you're way too happy about this right now. Well, obviously. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officer sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers little in the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, Consul? Come on! Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? No. Could this music emanating from the music box possibly be a new clue? It could be a clue. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord. Good lord! But how can it be? It's an abomination, Consul. Mere noise. I fail to see how it can have any meaning whatsoever. It's not just noise. That's why. I wouldn't say that that's kind of on par with what I exactly said there. This is so weird. It does sound strange, I agree. But there's one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a really telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Oh! Now with him cranking the wheel again. Just what relevance do you propose this willful chiming has on this case? It's the defense's belief that the sound emanating from this music box is not supposed to be music. I'll let you know when I didn't actually get the answers correct. Well, it's not even that. I will tell you when I struggled to choose an answer, because I actually didn't choose anything wrong. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be.
Making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Runa.
Objection!
Or you. The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not, I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nipponese friend. Well, surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken, refusing to accept that as fact. It's pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is, yet.
Bruno, I just examined the music box very thoroughly.
Lies! You heard nothing from me. Nothing at all.
And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all.
Really?
Really, the way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway.
Thank you, Iris. I do not like this dirge sounding music. Alright, well, if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sound it's producing have some significance that isn't musical. But I do know that at the Iris part, I have mentioned how she is an inventor, so recognizing if a machine is broken or not broken is completely up her alley. Ah! Could it be? Is that what these sounds are?
Something's just struck me, Reno. I felt like recently, the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like this one. This music box makes.
This is the part where I started becoming doubtful of things. I'm like, what do you mean we've heard this before within the past few hours? Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going to have to press the defense for an answer. If your assertion is that the sound produced by this music box is not, in fact, music at all, then what the devil is it, Counsel? All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointing to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that Marlene Benitez's friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm going to get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's going to join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds on this music box disc is... And this is the part where I truly struggled. I went over all the evidence with a fine-tooth comb. I started sweating profusely because I'm like, oh my gosh, time is ticking. But I did, in the end, select the correct answer. After going over every bit of evidence and ruling out what it could not be, I eventually selected the newspaper. Because it's the only thing, you know, that we never presented. And there was this talking about leaking of overseas secrets on the back. So I presented this and it turned out to be the correct answer. But I want to say that it took me at least 10 minutes before I felt confident enough to actually press the go button on this. Today's paper, Counsel. The headline is Pawnbroker Perishes and Pickpurse Plunder. Hardly supportive of your cause. Ah, no, my lord. I was hoping you'd look a little further down the page. Further down? Ministry Mole! Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas for Ministry of Justice! Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand. I have heard that international transmissions along supposedly secure lines are somehow being intercepted and leaked to various other countries. And presumably, those transmissions are in the form of wired telegrams. Of course. Juror number 5, your input, please. Stop. Oh, me, sir. Whatever is the matter? You told the court before that you worked in the same communication station as Mr. Graydon, did you not? Yes, that is correct. And the particular station where you work deals with government communications and newspaper reports? Oh, yes. We're not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important. Then tell me, is this not a very familiar sound? I was like, oh yeah, like a radio transmission. I also, at some point, I don't remember quite exactly where, but I mentioned before it was actually said in this trial. But yeah, I'm spoiling a little bit, but I said it first anyway, that they reminded me of like Morse code. You don't mean to say, is it? That's right, madame. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it. I believe it's called Morse code. What? I don't believe it! Now correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer. I think that's exactly why he works as a communication officer. Because when you look at his finely dressed self, it doesn't feel like he belongs there. However, with him knowing how easily it would be to send, you know, illegal documents across the pond this way, he would want to work in a department like this, wouldn't he? It all comes together. Or are you suggesting that the music box disc contains stolen government secrets in Morse code. How dare you, my learned friend? Order! Order! Please, everyone, order! But this is high treason, Council, deserving a capital punishment. Through what is new vocabulary, what is this treason? And what is capital punishment? The sorts of words I'd have expected you to know. For our sovereign government's confidential information, hostile nations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, and on that night 2 months ago, that was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. But in the end, McGill had perished, and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in a pawnbrokery. My word! In which case, whoever stole that information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry, because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason, punishable by death! So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it. So, if at the end of this trial, Mr. Egbert Humpty Dumpty Benedict, if he's found to be the true culprit in doing this, you know, over wired airwaves deceit, will he be killed? Like, is that going to be his lot in life? Is that at the end of this trial he dies? So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it. And in order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind by Mr. McGill would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Graydon? You think I've been stealing government secrets? Preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. So, in response to the defense's accusation, you claim complete innocence, do you? Well, of course I do. I've had to stand here in silence while that pretentious foreign lawyer has been prattling away.
Objection!
Then by all means, counter the charges, sir. Huh? The prosecution demands the witness testifies in response to the accusations brought by the defense. Delighted, I'm sure. The witness is reminded that the crime under scrutiny in this trial is the murder of the pawnbroker, Mr. Windybank. That being a most I completely forgot. Honestly, I looked this word up last time too, and I would do it again, darn it, because you know what? I don't remember how to pronounce it anymore. Flagitious? I think it was flagitious. Sorry, we are way ahead of schedule anyway. I've been flying through this part.
Flagitious.
It is flagitious. Yes. That being the most flagitious offense for which the law of this land sanctions a capital punishment. But the heinous act of high treason is no less serious a crime. I urge you to bear that in mind as you testify, Mr. Graydon. So then, let us proceed. You may... You gotta let us have a rabbit and porker, governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon? Who do you think you are? This is my courtroom. Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is professional baddie. Name's Wrangle Skulkin, but we ain't baddies enough to sell out our motherland. That's right. We're what they call the Skulkin Brothers. The three Skulkin Brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. Don't you see that we're in the middle of a hostile crisis? Witness testimony. Graydon's counter. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I've no relation to the man. Look, all we done is break into the gaff the other night like what he told us to do. If we known there was dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. They have morals, darn it. They would not have done it. Or so they say. Mr. Skulkin. What, Mr. Dear you, Governor? What's up? So I take it that you now admit to the crime? That was an idle question. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. You did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally. And moreover, you did so as a party of 3, in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here. We did, Gov! We did! Ryunosuke! He's over there like this. Quiet it down, please! What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these 2 ruffians are referring to. You little rotter, getting us mixed up in all this monkey business. You never said nothing about no government secrets. It was supposed to be a straight-up job. And what about the geezer whose shop it was, eh? Poor old bloke didn't have the door, did he? Ugh. Imbeciles, stop talking. Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. Wait a second, I have to cough. However, as it has, I will admit it into the court record as evidence. Man, doing these different voices, especially without taking the time anymore, rough. This strange music box only appears to be able to play a single tone. It was deposited at Windy Banks 2 days before the Black Overcoat. Yes, it was. Cross-examination. Graydon's counter. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Hold it! So is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted? How could I possibly know? What do you mean by that? Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff in the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop. Must say something, stop. Let me guess. Juror number 5. We regular communication station officers aren't as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the ministry. And Mr. Graydon is the team leader. That's fascinating. Fascinating. Graydon is a highly skilled operator, stop. Currently in presence of idols, stop. So you had access to the equipment used for these confidential communications, Mr. Graydon. Well, what of it? Transmissions are always made behind closed doors, so they can't be heard. And in any case, all messages are sent enciphered. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop. Must say something, stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with ministry, technicians, and the ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications. And he's received the top prize at the Cipher Cracking Convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator, stop. Currently in presence of idols, stop. Well, your idol would appreciate it if you keep your mouth shut. She should really pick her idols more carefully. I tell you this, lawyers' accusations are completely unfounded. Absolutely. Totally. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even most cold. They're not? Don't listen to him. To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds. Of course. Of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. I know I am. Ouch! He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. I'm sorry to let you down, Von Zeeks. I will be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson? Here in court? Her stereographs and now Morse code? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct tones. Tones, you say? Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you construct letters. I see. Soka. For example, this is A. And this is B. But when you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar. The rhythm of it is the same in everything. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed. This is not Morse code. No! Say it ain't so. Say it is not so. Really, you shouldn't be surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspersions in future. Stop. Nothing to say but stop.
Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it?
Iris?
I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being late using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely.
Could there still be something I haven't considered? And at that point, I turned this around, pressed this little handy dandy button. And it really was that fast. I just turned it around and pressed the button. Oh,
What is it, Runo?
I've just noticed something about this music box. It looks like the bottom of it opens up as well.
Ah, you're right. Come on then, what are you waiting for? Let's open it.
Alright then, here goes. Dun 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 dun.
Look at that. There's another movement on the other side.
And this was why I called her underground wire. Because she said she examined it thoroughly, yet here we are discovering new things and secrets with her in tow. So does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side?
Yes, I think so. And it looks like the two movements are linked together.
They're linked?
So if you had 2 discs, they would both play back at the same time.
How cleverly orchestrated. It's so beautiful. Would it really be impossible to use this music box somehow to play back Morse code? Give it a try. There's still every possibility that this music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
That was very fierce. Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be Morse code, 2 tones are required. Dots and dashes. Dash it all. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You had better present your idea at once, Consul. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could have been used to cipher secret messages into Morse code? And I guarantee the other disc was in here still. And that part is not a part that I have gotten to yet. If it showcases that, he indeed stole it from out of here. But it's a good guess at this point because it was tampered with, it was touched. So it stands to reason that the other music disc that he claimed way earlier, back in Windy Banks before he so horribly died, it was probably that disc.
What is it, Runo?
I've just noticed something about this music box. It looks like the bottom of it opens up as well. You did not just notice that. Well, kind of technically.
You're right.
And she should have known too.
Come on then. What are you waiting for? Let's open it.
Alright then, here goes.
Look at that. There's another movement on the other side.
You said exactly that earlier. So does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, I meant to present it. That's why. Sorry. That's my fault. Good gracious, what am I looking at here? Another movement on the other side of the music box. What? Oh, we're not as stupid as you think, Mr. Eggland's best. It appears, my lord, that the two movements are linked together. A link between worlds. In other words. In other words, you can put two discs in the music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens! As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of two tones, a short dot, and a long dash. With the second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry? This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claims. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present to court with a second disc, that would be another matter. Well, we don't have that. I can't at the moment. Yeah, he probably has it like in a suit jacket or something crazy. And may I remind the court that as the as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus when McGill did 2 months ago, striking a deal over the disc or disc. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly. I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. Though it has hose, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet.
Oh dear. It looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Bruno.
When our powers combine... You will reiterate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination. I'm a busy man. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I have no relation to the man. Did we just skip over? Look, all we done is break into the gaff the other night, like what he told us to do. Like Mr. Graydon told you to do, you mean? That's it, yeah. Who else, eh? So let me thought he was just popping over for a natter after all them years, but the rotor had a dodgy job for us. Aww, they just thought he was coming over to speak. Hi, Ash. Ashy washy. Let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years? You say? After all them years. Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? Pretty sociable kind of baddies, you know. Sure, let's say Graydon's in no China. No China. I love it. It just never gets old.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. Skulkin? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What? Who, me? When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh. I was just remembering the old days, that's all. We used to have a right old laugh together way back when. Together? With Mr. Graydon? You mean? Yeah, with Ash. I mean, you look at him now in his fancy whistle and flute, and you wouldn't Adam and David. But when they was younger, it was from the poor part of town, just like us. Is that so? But he was always a leery one. He had the brains, he had the savvy. Always coming up with smart ideas. What would never have gone through our heads.
God blimey, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton and Skulker's milk run? That was a corker, eh?
Save it until after the trial. Your reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your food.
Oi! The geezer asked us a question, didn't he? And we was answering.
Yeah, we ain't done nothing wrong.
Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please?
I don't know. Could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Add it on to the testimony. It's very rare that when it concerns a question at an impasse like that, that the correct answer is opposite of what you might normally think you will go for. My lord.
Yes, Counsel.
The brothers' last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case.
Very well, Counsel. I will permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with that detail. Briefly, I hasten to add. Say no more. A skulkin's never skulkin'. Milverton and Skulkin's mill were on guard, them were the days.
Wait. Hold it! Wait, huh? What happened to it? Well, we gotta skip all this. Darn it. If I can, this is different. Wait, is this different?
Enough! Why don't you baddies desist with the fiction? Obviously, I don't know these men from Adam. Now, for the last time, stop trying to implicate me in your sordid thievery. Well, that's bloomin' nice, isn't it? You little turncoat. Fine, if that's how you want it, two can play at that game. We ain't never heard of this geezer before either. They know him from Adam. Never spoken to him before in my life. Never even seen him.
Never, Nash, never!
Good grief! Such a blatant lie will not stand in my courtroom.
Well, all I'll say is this. If we'd known there were dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. Interesting. Oh, here we are. I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business?
Just a little scheme we had going back when we was youngsters. A bit of fun, really.
Deliver a fresh milk to the locals. That's what it was all about. That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask them to elaborate. But on what? That business name. Because who the heck is Milverton? So this business was just a bit of fun, you say? And it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved?
Yeah, that's it.
Milverton and Skulkin's milk run, was it? At this point, I mentioned, was Milverton possibly his middle name or something? Yeah, that's it. And where did the Milverton part come from?
Alright, I thought the clever clogs. Like you'd have worked it out. Enough of this. How much longer are we expected to listen to this drivel?
Let me guess. You don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying? Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because
it weren't the happiest of homes that war came from.
They're being very forthwith with information right now. Yeah, His little man was struggling for money so much, his wife walked out on him.
She took the name Graydon, they didn't say.
But that should always be Milverton to us.
Milverton. So that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not. This is all bunkum. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on the testimony of these two thieves, You're a communications officer attached to the civil service. As such, your personal details will have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to subpoena those records, Mr. Graydon.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, at the end of the day, Von Zieks is just known for putting out information, whether it's information I don't care to hear or not at that particular time. Normally, he's usually correct in his assumptions. Kind of, normally. And I just like the way he presents this. He's like, look, don't lie. We could easily check it, and you know what would happen if you have lied here and now.
Ah! Well, it would appear that Mr. and Mrs. Skulkin's testimony has been reliable. For once! You were born Ashley Milverton, then. Is that correct? Very well. Yes.
So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. This information could change things. It could turn out to be extremely important. A telegraph operator at the Central Communication Station, whose last name was once Milverton years ago. He's a childhood friend of the Skulkin brothers. He's so mad. All of a sudden, we seem to be up to our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although all this talk about interception of secret government messages is still just conjecture at this stage.
It would have explained a number of things, though, wouldn't it? The negotiation Jenny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago. The breaking out window banks. Trouble is, was it Mr. Graydon in the omnibus when Mr. McGill did?
No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker who was so horribly murdered.
Finally, there was some link between the two men somehow.
I know, but Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. And it was here that I was triggered. I want to say I was triggered like a second before she actually made that comment that just seemed very leading. I was like, oh, wasn't Milverton the actual last name of Mason? Mr. What was it? Thrice fired Mason. I wasn't sure how I think I also commented, like, how do I remember something from over a year ago? That trial was so long ago for me. I know, but Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to us making headway with the cross-examination here could be those two brothers. Tweedledee and Tweedledum strikes again. Or I guess the Apple Dumpling Gang. New communication officer couldn't do that. It's not even Morse code. He has no relation to the man. Wait, what? No relation to the man, but him and the man had the same last name. And we found that out by going over the deets. Yes, that's right. The details of the McGilded case. And bada boom, bada bing. The details of victim, name Mason Milverton. The only thing I questioned at this point was how it feels like, for the most part, everyone is acknowledged by a last name in the first place. So I felt like it was like off-leading that everyone's been calling this guy Mason instead of Milverton.
Objection.
Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court?
Because I haven't gone by that name in years. It means nothing to me.
No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name.
bastards! Explain yourself, please, Consul.
Well, he pulled those papers out super sharp. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord. And as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilded.
Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker?
That's right. Only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton.
$1 million? Milverton! Dude, do you mean to say Saint's alive?
Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker Mr. Mason Milverton was your father?
I don't.
As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you join the Silver Service. And it really would take no time at all for the court just to subpoena those records. The truth is, you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to McGilded in collaboration with your father. And then Mason paid the price. Which means that my earlier thought of him and McGilded being like super close is probably not very factual. Because if McGilded killed his dad, I'm pretty sure that maybe at this point he was the one that set the omnibus on fire. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth.
The truth, you say?
That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in the illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded.
By dint of this music box you mean, Consul?
The one and the same. Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands.
And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever.
But the deal with McGilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Windybanks 2 days ago in an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilded had placed in pawn there. That look, I cannot get my eyebrows to do what his eyebrows are currently doing. Actually, it's a very suave pose. I have to give him credit for that much at least. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other, you never found. At least not until that night. He most likely recovered it out of that music box disc. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers, bringing them back from the dead, so to speak, because I'm sure he hasn't spoken to them in years, and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc.
Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box?
Hey? We never knew nothing about that. On the night that Mr. Windybank was killed, you're seeing triple, quadruple. 1. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item, and one item alone, the music box disc. The music box.
As rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera indeed.
So the question that naturally begs answering is this: why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained a second disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since, if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all of this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago?
I refuse to accept any of this nonsense.
Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket.
What?
Ah! 2 nights ago. We know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Windy Bank's pawnbrokery. Ryunosuke slid into his delivery of this so smoothly. It was like he just glided over ice. It was so good. Like, no hesitation, just, hey, look, we see blood on your sleeve. 3, now we know. 2, like, dude, it was just too good. 1 took the life of the pawnbroker himself. 1 struck the pouch around Mr. Sholmes' waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide is a bullet wound, isn't it? The guy hook, line, and sinker that whole delivery. He's got you now, me old China. Even Nash was impressed. Nash is like, you know what? I can't argue the facts. He laid it bare right there on the table. He had the paperwork in hand. The delivery, smooth. Like, he's just like, you need to give up. But this is originally where I had stopped. We could probably go a couple of paces further, though. Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon. Don't acknowledge my presence there under any circumstances whatsoever. Those were my terms, remember? And I paid you handsomely to comply. Oh snap! Wait a second. He is saying he paid them off, but they did not care. Clearly, I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslum thieves. I mean, what did you truly expect here, sir? Like, seriously, you hired them for cheap and didn't even tell them all about what you were planning to what you were really truly up to. They have no reason to protect you at that point. Sure, you paid them off handsomely, but null and void, I say. Fine, I admit it. I was there in Windy Banks that night. Paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. Or guinea. I don't know if you say the S. And as you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Stealing government secrets, negotiating with Mr. McGilded. As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. It's not going to go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is... well, we know that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. The bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Sholmes' waist. And the bullet from Mr. Windybank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Indeed it must. We can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. You see where this is going, don't you? And that leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Windybank was shot by a 3rd gun, which could only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. Goodness! That's right, Mr. Graydon. Urgh! He was so focused on the government, illegal government stuff. Ryunosuke was setting him up. Oh my gosh, it's so good. The growth. He laid out his trap. He's like, oh no, look, You were there. Yes. You don't admit to government secrets and all that stuff. That's fine. But guess what? Let's actually do a little bit of mathematics. You know, stuff we learned back in 3rd grade, maybe even earlier. Here we go. Let's take a little tour down numerical lane. So good. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Windybank that night is you. I love it.
Hold it!
You little upstart. You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here.
Holy firecrackers. What is he talking about? And I'm afraid that we will have to learn in the next episode because I am still scared that this episode is going to be crunchy too. I hope it's not. I tried my best to triple check this stuff. And when I recorded a little sample and listened to it over as loud as I could and tried to figure out if anything was messed up, everything sounded good. So for you and for me, I hope that this episode turned out great. And if it did, you're obviously watching it now. So it did. But, what does he mean you made a grave mistake when you summoned me here? Dudes. We're about to hit the final countdown and it's about to be good. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. I do appreciate it that you stick it out with me so much. And I apologize for that last episode. This one is a re-recording. I haven't gone back to re-record that one because I want to get this episode up as soon as I possibly could. So I decided to just start from at this point, but I will eventually re-record that one. So that episode will at some point be swapped around too, hopefully. So anyways, thanks so much for watching and until next time. And it's looking like this guy's having a great time already, isn't he? Let's see if it bodes well for anyone. But until next time, I hope you all have a great and wonderful day. See you later. Bye.